after tomorrow night. My name is David Amanda, and let's get into today's news. Our first story tonight is about Japan. Earth's pervert uncle. Late last year, the Japanese parliament has announced a major policy shift in their constitution. Now, what kind of policy shift, do you ask? Well, the government has decided to lift some of the military restrictions that forced its military to stay on the island. For the first time in over 70 years, the Japanese military was allowed to leave the island nation and be engaged in foreign wars around the world. But to truly understand the repercussions and significance, we're going to have to take a long look at the long history of Japanese interactions with America and the rest of the world. Now, would you please join me outside, because now I have a very special interview. Joining us now today is traditional Japanese samurai Johnny Karate. Johnny?
Sushi, anime, ramen, wasabi.
What in translation are you saying? Jim, can you get a dub on this?
아리가또 고자이마스. 옆에 있는 남자는 하하.
It was a great land before those people came. We respected our religion to the shrines placed in our country. Our people would worship these shrines in the honor of their kami.
Kamis? Wait, you mean like the communists?
No. Kami are deities that we Japanese worship in our religion shrine Shinto. We practice our traditions at Jinja, testaments to a single kami. Apart from religion, our land was ruled by shogun or powerful leader. They are basically the military general of our land, but with political power. The role of the shogun is passed down from generations through lineage. I think the very last shogun was Tokugawa Yoshinobu of the Tokugawa regime.
That was all very interesting, but how was it like to live there in general?
I grew up as a farmer in the countryside to grow crops, as did most Japanese folk. I sold food to the general public, whereas my friends sold the raw materials to artisans. My wife and I got married through a legal process in order to fulfill our societal expectations. We didn't really know each other that well, but we had to do it. The Japanese also found a lot of interest in bodily tattoos because they're quite an interesting method to express oneself.
Huh, that seems legit.
I have a tattoo on my back.
No, don't! Anything else to say?
I guess not. Everything was like that until that dude Commodore Perry came along.
Commodore Perry? Isn't Commodore Perry of the Black Fleet that made contact with your people in 1853? Thanks, Johnny. Good speaking to you. Luckily, we have another person who could take over from here and give us an even better description of what's going on. Back to the studio. Thanks, past me. Now we bring it over a bit farther into the future. Tonight, we actually have a guest that comes from Emperor Meiji era. Please welcome Nihon Noshimi, everyone.
I'm Mr. Gabriel. My name is Nihojin, and I'm very deeply sorry that my English is pretty broken. I'm only from Japan.
No, don't worry about it. You're doing absolutely fine.
Thank you.
You're much better than the last guy.
Okay.
Anyway, can you tell us what it's like to live in the Meiji era?
Well, it all started with the Treaty of Kanagawa. I still remember when all those American steel ships sailed into Tokyo Bay. The next thing we know, the Americans were bringing their men, their cargo, their people in and out of our very home. It was all so quick, like bang, bang, bang. And Prince Mitsuhito was named emperor, and then he implanted what was called the Meiji era, a period of enlightenment. And after that, Japan just started to drive up to catch with those Western powers. We used new techniques and ways to govern ourselves. We modernized our military, we mobilized, and then we just became a great power, I thought. And we were just building and building until Japan as a whole finally decided to leave our shell. And it all started with a fight with China over land up north in Korea. You guys may call it the Sino-Japanese War. I thought it was a horrible decision. China had millions of more men in their army, but there was win after win. And for 6 months, some government stuff happened, and the war ended, and we finally basically owned Korea. And I thought that was kind of cool until, boom, another war. This time it was named the Russo-Japanese War. The Russians didn't respect Korea or something, and I don't even know what happened.
Well, not exactly. The Russo-Japanese War was a conflict regarding both Korea and Manchuria. The war forced the Russians out of Korea, which they were attempting to control, and Manchuria as well. It was the first time a European nation was defeated by a non-European power. Believe me, it surprised everyone, especially those back in Europe. Anyway, continue.
So yeah, boom, boom, boom. We defeated the Russians and Korea was still ours. And I guess our people was tired of losing and fighting over Korea, so basically we just annexed it. Annexation of Korea, as they called it. Whatever that means.
The annexation is the act of taking over other nations, incorporating them into the conqueror's territory. Shouldn't you be familiar with this?
Yeah, when I was in America, they didn't really teach us how to imperialize very well.
Well, how about that? Maybe our next guest will tell you how you guys did. Thanks for coming on the show. Now we turn to an American sailor who served on the USS Missouri during World War II. Give a warm welcome to Lieutenant Carlton Rowe. Huh, what a stupid last name.
Thanks, Gabe. And the next time you even think of pronouncing my last in name, I'll curse your firstborn child.
Gee, where have I heard that before? Can you tell us about your experiences in the war and how America and the rest of the world let Japan gain so much power? Oh, and can you refrain from cursing? We do not have the budget for bleeps.
Oh, sorry. Well, it all started in the early 30s, 1931 to be exact, when those greedy Japanese militants went against their parliament and invaded innocent Manchuria. Not only did they go against their own government, but against those elitists from the League of Nations. And once word got out that Japan disobeyed them, it was free realm for the Axis powers to form. These Axis powers were made of the sons of who thought they could take over America. It consisted of Germany, Italy, and Japan. Japan was mad, like a raging bull, ready to unleash upon the world, and it all began with the border dispute on South China. With Japan's supreme navy, China was no match, and they were forced to fall back. Although devastating, it was nothing compared to what was to come. Those little should try to take down my in America, like what the
Sir, we're running out of I'll deal with it later. Okay, let's go.
Sorry, that part always riles me up. On December 7th, 1941, the attacks on Pearl Harbor took the lives of 2,403 people. We were powerless. To fuel the fire of Japan's wrath, they proceeded with attack after the Old Pacific until 1943, where they conquered over 1 million square miles of conquered territory.
Well, it looks like Japan was unstoppable, but when did the tide start to change?
Never doubt America. America started to go on the offensive after the Battle of Midway. Then we began island hopping after island hopping from one land base to another until we had everything. Then soon after, we knew the war was ours. And to end it, we had the perfect way to do it. The A-bomb. In 1945, we gave Japan some good old American payback. And by dropping 2 bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, ending the war for the good guys. And with that, and with the Japanese surrender, days after, America won this war.
Thank you, Lieutenant, but that's all we have time for, and, well, all we have are our budget. We thank you for your service. And this brings us to the end of World War II. With the Axis defeated, the U.S. is left with the ruins of Japan to rebuild. In charge of that effort was General Douglas MacArthur, Supreme Commander of the Allied Forces. Under his command, he disbanded the Japanese military and banned officers from gaining governmental positions in the new government. He also introduced land reforms intended to reduce power to landowners and turn the Japanese economy into a capitalist one. These reforms would cause the country to boom into the economic powerhouse it is today. But more interestingly is the demilitarization of Japan from its former glory. Everything from the military itself to the factories and facilities that provided Japan's armies the tools to fight were dismantled. Which leads all the way back to the Constitution. After the war, Japan attempted to write a new constitution that was meant to replace the Meiji Constitution that was in effect during World War II. However, it was rejected by MacArthur for being nothing more than a rewording of the old Meiji Constitution. So, realizing that if you need some work done, you need to do it yourself, he took matters into his own hands and had his government write the Constitution for him. This Constitution would later be ratified in 1947 and be the basis for the problem we discussed at the start of the show. You see, Article 9 of the new Constitution stated that the Japanese people forever renounced war as a sovereign right of the nation and the threat or use of force as a means of settling international disputes. And what that means is that for the first time, the United States and the rest of the world is putting complete faith in the Japanese government. And looking at Japan's history, we can't fully tell that they will wage the next World War, continue to stay a peaceful capitalist nation that we forget about half the time. Whether it truly backfires on us, well, that's yet to be seen. But when it does, at least you know we'll cover it on last year's In War Nights.